Hello, and welcome to our day 4. Today we'll be adding the fun trims. Woo, my favorite. So, yesterday, you might have noticed on the video that I posted yesterday that one, I did trim, I did hem my my bottom, and two, I made some notes on the video in post-production. That sounds so funny. If you're doing the trim or the pom-poms as shown in the pattern, obviously yesterday you did not hem, you just pressed, and the day before you had your things, your surgical raw edge done. So right now I have mine hemmed because, and I forgot to tell you this yesterday, I like to hem mine because I'm using this super cute trim, and I want it on the outside. So because I want it on the outside, I like to hem mine. One, it's crochet, so it's not that hard, but it's also not as soft as knit. So it's a personal sensory issue preference that my trim is on the outside versus on the inside, so it doesn't touch the leg, especially if you're using like lace trim or something that's not super soft against the skin. Plus, for second reason is that I love this trim. Like, I want to show it off, not just the scallops part. So I want to put my trim on the outside. Hence, why I actually hem this. If you have not, if you're using the trim as instructed in the pattern, so you're putting it on the inside of the pants and you just see the little scallop edge, like in my case, then you'll be following the instructions exactly as in the pattern, and you won't have had sewn yesterday the hem. So right now you'll have just the serge edge. Now mine is already folded 3/8 of an inch. So I'm gonna show you how I do this. A quick side note, if you have not hemmed, I'm using this as an example because it's not hemmed. You're gonna be doing just as in the tutorial. Right sides together your trim, sew with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm putting my trim, sew with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then press and top stitch. And this way you'll have your trim on the underside and a little bit of it peeking out. That's the method that's shown in the tutorial for the trim and the pom-pom. This is not what I want to do on my shorts. I want to have the trim standing out and on the outside, and on the inside you'll have just the knit hem. So if you're doing my methods with the trim on the outside, now you should have this hem. I'm just taking my trim, and some of them have a right side and a wrong side, and you can kind of see it if you take a close look at them. So I'm gonna put it wrong side to the right side of the fabric and just spin in place. I did the other foot already. There's my trim is crochet, so it's slightly stiff and not that biased, but if you pull it a little bit, you can stretch it nicely on the curve. If you're using bias tape and you want it out on the outside, bias tape is being that it's got on bias, it has a slight stretch to it, so it's gonna go nicely on the curve. I've never had those, so you see better. I've never had those bias tapes that have like a trim, like they show here in the tutorial, and it's super cute. And one day I'm gonna get some of that trim too. The bias tape with a little detail, that would work great for these. All right, so I'm just doing this and putting it in place. And basically for my step today, I'm gonna be trimming any excess there. So right now, see, I have my trim on the outer side, and I'm pinning it. You can pin it as close, or like if you want it like this, you can pin it, let me move you closer. Anything that's more than 1/4 of an inch overlap is fine. I like mine to be overlapped more. So I leave about 1/4 of an inch on the outside, and then whatever is left here, I would say it's about 3/8 of an inch overlap, but it's a personal preference. This pattern gives you a lot of opportunity to get creative with the details. So many cute things that you can do. Obviously, you could have left it just the hem like I did yesterday, and it would have been cute. But oh, look how adorable! I seriously am in love with this. Like, look how cute. All right, so I'll turn it to the sewing machine, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the sewing machine stitch on top on both sides of the leg. Because I'm top stitching, I'm probably gonna use longer stitch length, and obviously I could have done this with a cover stitch and skipped the hemming step, but I like mine hemmed first, and then this just added as a detail. Okay, I'm gonna lower my tension a little bit to 3.6 or 3.8 and just sew my trim on. And I feel like it's gonna be super soft on the skin, because even though this is not for me, I know I would like this. If I were to wear this, I would like to not feel the trim on my legs, but to have the pretty look. So I find that putting it on the outside gives you the best of both worlds. So because I've done this, I'm gonna be doing the next step and the final step of the day a little different than the pattern calls for too. Let me do the other side. A little excess trim, and that's not a big deal. I'm going to remove the excess trim. Better to have more than less. So now the table. Busted. I mean, you saw me watching myself. I love the GoPro app, by the way. All right, so I'm gonna lay my shorts wrong side up. There you go, wrong side up. Obviously you can give it a good press right now, and bring my front up. And you have this curve right here, see, on both sides. If you're using woven, this curve should have serged. The raw edge should not be here. It should be serged. If you've done the method as shown in the tutorial with the trim on the inside, I will show you. I'm not gonna sew it, but I'll show you how it's done. You will be putting these pieces together. Imagine like this would be a raw edge, and sewing along the curve like this, stopping 3/8 of an inch here. So pin 3/8 of an inch away from where the fold ends, and just sew. And then when you open it up, it's gonna be nicely done. I'm not gonna do that because I've chosen to put my trim on the outside. So in my case, I'm gonna flip this up, and I want to still have my trim on the outside. So I'm gonna come and fold this. You see where the fold line is right here? I'm gonna match this to the raw edge there and pin here. For this step you might need actual pins instead of clips. So I'm basically meeting my raw edge here with the raw edge that I have here. You might find it easier to do it on the other side, whatever works for you, see? I'm pinning it here at the curve. Very cute. So a close up, my raw edge here is right along the raw edge of where I did my hem, just like this. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Bring those two together. So I have my hem here, and then I'm placing this, so right side of the fabric on top of the hem. If you did my method, not the one in the tutorial. And pinning along the curve. This can be done with both woven and knits, and both adults and youth. Whatever you've done, it's fine. You can use the same outside trim method. So adorable. So this is how it's gonna look like right now. I just need to go ahead and stitch along my pins. So I'm gonna stitch as close as possible. You can stitch from the underside as long as you remember to have a bobbin thread that matches your trim. Like I use, for my machine, I use specific bobbin thread because it likes the finishing touch bobbin thread, which is very thin and white and you barely see it, so I'm fine to use that. But if you have like black thread in the bobbin right now, make sure you don't sew it like this, because your bobbin thread will show on the front. Make sure you change your bobbin thread to match this, and you can sew on the back as well. What we're gonna be doing now, and that's the last step of the day. When you sew, be careful not to trap the pants. So you gotta move the back away. And I'm gonna be using a stretch stitch right now because I'm using knits. So I don't want to lose the stretch. You can use a zigzag stitch. You can use, if you're using woven, you can use a regular straight stitch. I want to make sure I don't catch any of my pins. Oh, they're on this side. Okay. Do the other leg, and this is it for today's steps. We're just gonna be snapping the picture, place it in the comments of day 4, and this would be considered your check-in for today. Tomorrow is the last day of the sew along, and and tomorrow we'll basically be doing the waistband and showing off our finished design, and I'll pick a winner for a prize. When I trimmed the trim earlier, I realized I should have probably left it a little bit longer. So my suggestion would be, if you haven't trimmed any excess trim it after you top stitch it here. I just realized now when I was sewing that I might have trimmed a little more than I should have. But it's all good. Oh my goodness, it's adorable. It is adorable. So this is how the short looks like with the trim on the outside. This is a trim that's might be an inch wide trim on a size 3T shorts. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna go give it a good press, snap a picture, post it in day 4, and I'll see you back here tomorrow when we'll be finishing up with the waistband. Bye guys.